Grid tonight. Yuki Tsunoda is officially a Red Bull driver. Will he break the trend of failure by former teammates of Max Verstappen? Jesse Love will make his Cup debut at Bristol. Could the 20-year-old California native put himself in line for a future promotion to NASCAR's Cup Series? Sammy Smith was penalized for the incident on the final lap at Martinsville involving Taylor Gray. Will Smith be able to redeem his reputation? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. It's a big night for the EPI. And Jess Ball from JB Motorsports as well. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. And speaking of that, on Monday, we officially launched the new and improved Grid Network website. There's a link in the video description below of a short walkthrough with the new site, including our Meet the Team page that we've been promoting on our social media channels throughout the day. Get to know more about each member of the Grid Network on gridnetworktv.com. And as Josh gets into the intro, I'll put the link down in the video description. And we have a really busy news night. Lots of F1, NASCAR to talk. Lots of headlines on my section, and big night for the week one of the Grid EPI this year. But that said, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Jess. And yes, here we are then, the first week of the Grid EPI. I'm very excited to see what Matt's got for us later on. But after multiple reports in the media regarding a driver shake-up at Red Bull Racing, the news was finally confirmed last Thursday morning. Typical. They couldn't wait one more day, could they? And then we could have done it live. Yuki Tsunoda was promoted to Red Bull, becoming Max Verstappen's new teammate after being with Visa Cash App Racing Bulls since 2021. Speaking of VCARB, with Tsunoda's promotion to the big team, Liam Lawson is being demoted in a return to Racing Bulls alongside rookie Isaac Hadjar. Now, on last week's show, we primarily focused on Lawson, and tonight we'll focus more on Tsunoda. Team principal Christian Horner said it's been difficult to see Lawson struggle with the RB21 during the first two race weekends of the 2025 Formula One season, and made the sporting decision to make the seat swap because they want to retain the Drivers' Championship and reclaim the Constructors' Championship. Horner added that Red Bull has a duty of care to protect and develop Lawson. So they acted quickly by sending him back to an environment and team he knows well to continue his F1 career with VCARB. Team principal Laurent Mekies said that they are incredibly proud of Tsunoda for earning his well-deserved promotion ahead of his home Japanese Grand Prix, and noted they'll be working hard to give Lawson an environment for him to shine and reminders of the talent he has. For Tsunoda's home race, he'll have the honour of driving this special white Red Bull livery as a big thank you for its successful partnership with engine supplier Honda. We know that Red Bull will expect the Japanese driver to immediately be an upgrade over Lawson, but this certainly has to be a special moment for him to be making his Red Bull debut at home, driving a car in his nation's colours. The graphic courtesy of Red Bull Racing. Kobe, starting with you on this one, what should we expect from Yuki Tsunoda as he gets up to speed with Red Bull? And will the pressure of being Max Verstappen's teammate be too much for him to let this special weekend sink in?
Well, Josh, I'm going to start off with the second part of that question you just asked, and I hope Yuki Tsunoda will get an opportunity, to just sit back and reflect on this big weekend for him, because being able to, get the promotion to being a Red Bull driver heading into your home Grand Prix, that's a big deal, and very rare. You don't really get to see that often, where a driver who's been working so hard to prove himself get to debut with the big team at his home Grand Prix. And I know Yuki, he's going to be in a car that could potentially win the race, but will Yuki win on debut? That would definitely be quite a big one, for all the script writers and all of that. If Yuki Tsunoda were to go out there and win in his Red Bull debut with the Honda engine at Suzuka in his native Japan, that would be really special. But it's definitely a wonderful moment when you really think about it. And we know the pressure coming with Red Bull. I know we'll get a little bit more into the pressure in just a little bit. but it's going to be really difficult for Yuki to try to do what, the others before him weren't able to do, which is to, really stand on their 2 feet beside Max Verstappen. So it doesn't feel like that Max Verstappen is carrying the whole team on his back while the second driver is just, flailing in the wind. And it's going to be difficult. I know Yuki's already spoken to the media this weekend. He feels confident that he can tame the Red Bull, but so did the other drivers. They thought that they could get on that Red Bull and ride it, but they end up getting bucked off, and Yuki's going to have to try really hard, and maybe the Red Bull will suit him. Maybe it won't. We'll just have to wait and see there. But I certainly think that he's going to have to try to impress the Red Bull team very quickly here. You see Liam Lawson got 2 weekends to show what he could do, and they weren't impressed. They weren't willing to give him the opportunity to learn. And if Yuki comes out, performs on the same level as Lawson, or even worse, then who knows what Red Bull is going to do at that point. They might not be left with many options then. But for Yuki, I think it's a really great story that he's making his debut with Red Bull at his home race. Driving a car, in his nation's colors. That's a special moment. But the job at hand, being a Red Bull driver, lots of pressure there, and I'm sure he's definitely going to be feeling it from the time he pulls out of the garage in FP1.
Yeah, it'd be a massive moment for him, in those special colours, as we've seen before, for Yuki. I mean, better late than never, I guess. And we talked about it a lot on the show, the four of us last week too. I mean, that would be the scriptwriter's dream, as you say, Kobe, if he was to come out and miraculously win at the weekend. Would that be bigger than Max winning on his Red Bull debut at Barcelona all those years ago? Kind of think it might be just a bit more of a bigger deal. I know he's had obviously much more experience as a Grand Prix driver than Max had to that point in his career, but to be on home ground in the Japanese flag colours would be massive. But I don't think it's going to be that easy. As we've seen from the last couple of races, that car isn't perhaps as nailed on as it was for the last couple of years with Max at the helm. So going to be interesting, and I'll go back to a point I raised on this very show last week when we were talking about this very same discussion. I know we talked about it a lot last week. What happens if he gets knocked out in Q1 on Saturday? What happens then? Let's hope this time that he's had to wait for his chance. Now he's got it. Give him time. If it doesn't go quite right over these next 3 weeks, and of course we've got a triple header over the next couple of weeks of Grand Prix, Suzuka this weekend, then Bahrain and Jeddah on Easter Sunday. So quick rotation for Yuki and that team to get really up to speed. Obviously, we have to immersify himself with all the new mechanics and engineers and all that kind of thing and he's got a great chance to do it over these next couple of weeks with them all being on the road together. So that's a positive. I'm just hoping that he has a good, clean weekend, and if he can be in the mix, in and around somewhere of Max's running, wherever that is in the running order on Sunday, whether it be at the front or where they were in China, sort of fourth, fifth, sixth with the Ferraris, then that would be the most positive thing to come out of the weekend, I think, for Red Bull as a whole. They will feel like, I'm sure they'll feel pretty vindicated if Tsunoda can get a top 6 finish and be somewhere in that Verstappen pace realm, let's say.
Personally, I think it was about time for Tsunoda, but the way that Liam Lawson was dropped into the Racing Bulls team after not performing well in Red Bull, I think Liam Lawson should have got given a bit more chance to prove himself. Of course, Suzuka was a trap for him that really suits him in Super Formula, so it would have been a shame. But to be honest, I personally feel like, as Dana Live said in the chat, that Honda has put quite a bit of pressure on the team, seeing them not their second driver did so well, and they're thinking, oh, Yuki made you as well. And he's 24, and it's great that he's been given an opportunity at his home circuit. He's very experienced. He got points on his F1 debut back in 2021. The thing is, I agree with Kobe and Matt. We have to give him more time, because with Liam Lawson, he had time to get used to the car in preseason testing. Tsunoda doesn't have preseason testing in the RB21, so it's going to take a bit of a while for him to familiarise with the car. He has had plenty of time in the simulator, but again, as like with real life racing, nothing can match experience of driving it for real. He seems pretty confident in terms of the feel of the car. But again, it's a simulation car, so I think it might be different. And the tricky thing is he's got to build a relationship with Max Verstappen, and I think I could see that Yuki is nothing to lose at this point. I think we've heard on the radio and previous radio stations that I believe, according to Helmut Marko, Yuki has been given a year to prove himself. Of course, he has a bit more time because he hasn't had pre-season testing compared to it. I think if Yuki does go on to even not be last and beating Liam Lawson's results, that is a win-win situation. But I think he's been told by Christian Horner and all that, you got to get close to Max. If you're not close to Max, then are we going to start to question the car? And if Yuki Tsunoda is performing as bad as well, I think we all owe Checo an apology, because I think when the car was great, Perez was performing great. But when the car was bad from 2023, as I said in this very show last week, then we were starting to see him perform that badly. And yeah, I agree with Ben that if Yuki doesn't perform well, I think we owe Checo an apology.
I've said that from day one, really. I think Checo, Matt's shaking his head.
I disagree on that Perez point. I'm sorry. He's had however many Grand Prix previously. He went to McLaren off the back of a good run at Sauber early in his career as the Lewis replacement, was heralded as a bit of a next big thing, flopped. Midfield runner. He didn't have granted, that car was not great that year, but he was way off of Jensen, and then got the flick after 1 year. Went to Force India Racing Point, whatever they were called at the time. Did okay as a midfieldy runner. Picked up a victory at Sakir after all those years of trying. Gets bolted into the Red Bull seat. Granted, he did okay for a little while. Got a couple of wins and stuff. Azerbaijan, Miami, places like that. You can't apologise for his performance last season. It was absolutely woeful in the best of.
Yeah. But I will just try and defend him a little bit by saying that he said the car was damaged and wrong as soon as he got the spec on the car, where they've traced it back to and found out it went wrong.
Spain, last year. Is it last year or 2023?
23, Spain 23. But they didn't believe him because Max kept winning and was so dominant. Yeah. So is that car just built around him? Yeah. As Ben says, and to Matt's point, no doubt it would be bigger since one, Yuki is driving an objectively worse car, and two, Max would have only finished third, and Nico and Lewis not taking each other out on lap one. Yeah. Matt, just want to say something. It's entirely possible, that it could happen. I mean, Suzuka's not really known, is it, for two McLarens crashing into each other and somebody completely unlikely taking the win in a car that's woefully underpowered. I mean,
1989.
Yeah. I mean, and then also for McLaren and a Ferrari to take each other out as well. Yeah. And for someone else to, that's never happened before, has it? Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
There's a bit of a precedent setting here, isn't there? If Yuki wins, I will be the first one to jump up and down in the commentary box, which I think is actually what did my neck in a few days ago in the NASCAR race. When Mark did it, I think that's when I did it. I jumped up and down, and I think I've knocked something, so I've got a bit of a sore
Did you jump
neck.
up? Did you get annoyed with Marc Marquez's crash?
As soon as he went down, I jumped up and down in the commentary box, and I think I've landed funny on my ankle, and it shot back up because I already had a problem with the neck. And I woke up Monday morning screaming in pain because I was locked. It's eased off a bit, but I can't. I have to swivel around, so I'm looking a bit crooked. I agree. I believe Kobe, who mentioned how Red Bull might end up like Honda MotoGP with Mark, to follow on the point as well.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, didn't we? I think.
It's the same situation brewing, isn't it, for that Red Bull car? And they are bringing upgrades to Japan as well as a new livery. In fact, Red Bull was the first car to arrive at Japan. It was there since Sunday night. And that's how we knew when April the 1st came around, it wasn't actually a fake livery. It was true because we got images from inside the pits of the shiny livery. And it's not a matte livery either. It is actually a glossy white livery. Adam says if Yuki wins, the entire country of Japan will go insane. I think they will, and they'll still stay behind after and clean up. They're the most respectful fans I've ever seen in motor racing. I love it. I love Japan.
There was a comment earlier that flashed up. I think it was from A Day in the Life, who said, "Is there been some Honda dealing in this deal?" You have to say, thank you, Kobe. You have to feel like that has happened and probably should have happened after Abu Dhabi last season.
I want to throw in just one more quick question, if I can, into the script. I did mention this last week, but there is still increasing rumours going along, and it's come up in the last few days, is that Fernando Alonso will retire at the end of 2026, and then it will be Tsunoda alongside Verstappen for 2027, and Stroll will probably will leave at the end of this year, and Tsunoda go over. How damaging could this be? I'll start with you, Matt, for Red Bull on this, in terms of if they do lose both their drivers, just as they start to get a bit of stability back.
I mean, they've lost their guru already. He's gone to Aston Martin. They are losing / changing their engine supplier when Ford come in, although it's not really going to be a Ford. It's going to be a Red Bull powertrain with a Ford sticker on the side. And then now they're going to perhaps lose both of their drivers. The key question here is, why isn't the man at the top under pressure, Mr. C. Horner, especially after all the stuff that happened last year? Now all of this stuff's going on. He does seem to be made of Teflon. At some point, and again, if the Red Bull car next year is, not at the front with this big regulation change we've got coming, there needs to be a change at the top. And I think we talked about that a little bit on the show last week, that heads need to roll in all the driver debacle, and if these things continue, then something needs to change.
It was interesting that I was reading the news over the last few days, and Max Verstappen I think I heard that Max Verstappen got annoyed that Liam Lawson was dropped this soon, because he even said that he was going to help Lawson get used to the car. He openly said that he was going to help develop Lawson. Max Verstappen's good at doing that, and he even liked to tweet or an Instagram post of him criticizing Red Bull or something. And we do know, I think, according to rumors, Verstappen has a clause or something like that in his contract, that if Red Bull are not performing great, he could just be like, bye-bye, sayonara, see you later, and move on to a different team. But the question is, what team? Maybe Aston Martin, maybe Mercedes, probably not, because I know Toto Wolff has openly said that I think he's more than likely going to be keeping both of their drivers due to the fact that they're both performing so well in the first few races of the season, in particularly George Russell. So, yeah, I think Verstappen is not a happy camper at the moment. And if Max Verstappen is not challenging for the title, I think we could see him leaving Red Bull sooner than 2026, maybe even in the end of 2025.
Yeah, and as Ben has put in the chat below, it was Gita Vandergarde's post that he ended up liking. And then I think it was Helmut Marko who went on the record, I think with motorsport.com, and said that Max was not happy at all by the decision making or lack thereof that Red Bull have been making. But yeah, it would be really interesting if Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, stayed with Honda and went with the Aston Martin F1 team in the next few years. And we've talked about Lance Stroll and how he could just go off and race the Aston Martin Valkyrie hypercar program with the harder racing. Yeah, that would be really good for him, since Lance has a passion for sports car racing. He's done the Rolex 24 in the past, and I'm sure he'd love to do some more sports car racing. So that would definitely satisfy him. And Fernando Alonso would not be surprised at all to see him retire from Formula One once and for all this time, instead of retire then come back a few years later. But yeah, as Joe has also mentioned, Ford entering Red Bull at the wrong time it's an interesting dilemma to have, given like Yuki Tsunoda, you've worked so hard your career to drive with a top team like Red Bull, and then all of a sudden Honda's going the other direction, and then you have Red Bull, and who do you follow? Do you stay with Red Bull, or do you continue to your relationship with Honda and move over to Aston Martin? So Yuki Tsunoda's gonna have to make a decision, in the next several months or so. And for Max Verstappen, if he decides to leave, that would be a massive, massive blow to Red Bull. And if Verstappen leaves and Tsunoda, what are Red Bull going to do with their driver lineup heading into the future? Who knows where they could potentially turn, because that car right now, it seems like Max Verstappen's the only one who can drive it. And if they had like two other drivers in that car, they're like, we make you wonder, would Red Bull, even be battling for points, or would they consistently finish outside of the points? It's just, an intriguing dilemma that needs to be studied.
And that's a great segue. Oh, go on, Matt, first of all.
I was just going to say, it's similar to, if you think back to the early 90s, when McLaren and Honda went their separate ways, and it took McLaren a long time to get back to when they had the Mercedes and the silver cars when Hakkinen won the championship, because they went through Ford in 93, which was a good car but a terrible engine. Then they had a couple of years with Peugeot, just didn't work at all. And then a couple of learning years with Mercedes before it came good. So they were up here, and then there was a big dip before they came back to the top. Could happen with Red Bull.
Yeah, they really regretted not signing with Renault, didn't they? Like Williams, McLaren had that option for 93 and it went straight away, and they went the complete opposite. They should have taken Renault. Ben says Bernie Collins went a bit too far when she said that Red Bull Racing had the 10th fastest, i.e. worst car right now, but her point is valid. There'll be a midfield team at best right now if Max walks. I think Bernie's right. And I hate to say it, but if you look at it, if Max wasn't there for a race, they would be at the back of the grid, because that car is a dog. It really is.
It's Marc Marquez Honda MotoGP 2020 all over again.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't now not lie. We've had 2 races, and in both those races, Liam Lawson, as you said, he's been out in Q1, and he's also had to start from the pit lane. Liam Lawson in a main Red Bull has never started on the starting grid. Australia, pit lane. China, pit lane. It makes no sense. And time again, you look at the long run pace, and it's just not there. You look at the qualifying pace, it's not there. Sauber are faster in the long run pace. We saw that with Hulkenberg's drive. Aston Martin are faster. Williams aren't now the 5th fastest team as we were expecting. They're the 4th fastest team. In many respects as well. Yes, I know Ferrari got disqualified, but they're faster than Ferrari. And they've got a better strategy than Ferrari. If Sainz gets his game together, they'll be battling for points. And that's going to hurt Yuki and whoever else ends up in that second Red Bull seat at the end of the year as we go out. Rain is forecast as a day in the life. Is it really?
I'm not surprised. Japan always likes to throw a spanner in the works with rain, and Japan's always a safety car specialist as well when it's raining.
I dropped my pen. Jess, you and me were in the planning meeting earlier on where JT was showing us that graphic with the new LED systems we're adding this weekend.
Yeah.
Something tells me that's a good idea if it starts to rain, because it tells
we're going to use that quite a lot, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I'll get that on and for a link for people in the chat as well, because it's a free thing you can do. But brilliant to segue back to Kobe's point earlier on. With Tsunoda preparing to begin his stint with Red Bull, it was F1.com's Lawrence Barretto actually caught up with the driver who got dropped by Red Bull at the end of the 2024 season, Sergio Perez. He was left without a seat on the 2025 F1 grid, but he's still paying attention to everything happening at the pinnacle of motorsport. Now, when he was asked about the driver swap between Tsunoda and Lawson, Perez said he spent so long at Red Bull that everyone forgot how difficult the car is to drive. And he praised Tsunoda, saying that he has the talent, the speed, and the mentality to cope with the demands of pressure of being a Red Bull F1 driver. Now, last week, Matt did kind of mention this, but we didn't dive too deeply into it. But if Tsunoda proves not to be much of an upgrade over Lawson, then Red Bull will be in a very difficult position. On a separate note, Perez confirmed that he's been approached by multiple teams about a potential return to the F1 grid in 2026. He said that there are some interesting projects out there and will only come back if projects makes sense and something he may genuinely actually enjoy. Now, given how poorly his Red Bull tenure ended, Checo might have some unfinished business to settle in Formula 1. The link to that article is in the video description as well. But Jess, starting with you on this one, despite Perez showing the confidence he has in Tsunoda to beat the odds at Red Bull, seriously, are Red Bull really out of options if Tsunoda can't execute his role with the team? And also, should Perez really return to Formula 1 in 2026 or ride off into the sunset?
I think Red Bull have been out of options since, I think, the second driver situation has gone completely crazy. Obviously, we talked about it last week, like Alex Albon not performing well against Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, Daniel Kvyat, or even go as far as when David Coulthard outperforming one of the other drivers and them not doing well. There's not many options. Yes, you've got Isaac Hadjar, but again, he's new to the sport. Is he going to do well and stuff like that? And I do know that if Tsunoda and any of the Red Bull camp not going to do well, I think they've only got one driver. And again, we haven't seen what he's capable of in the F1 side of things because he hasn't got a super license yet. And there are talks that they're wanting to give an exception like Mercedes did with Antonelli. That's Arvid Lindblad. He is a talented driver in the world of the feeder series, but again, it's too early to judge on it. He's going to do well. I think that's the only option. But of course, you got Sainz, you got Albon. I don't think they'll be rolling out Albon. Russell maybe, but I doubt he would want to go to Red Bull. He would rather stay at Mercedes, where they actually do well with their junior program. So I think the only option they've got is Lindblad, and if he doesn't do well, then Red Bull will run out of options. And in terms of Perez and going into Formula 1 in 2026, I'm starting to think that I think they should have at least one driver that is experienced, that can bring the team to good heights, that has had experience of doing well in championships. I don't think Perez would be a good fit for that. I think one driver that would potentially be Valtteri Bottas. I mean, he's the third driver in the Mercedes camp. He's been so close to winning titles against Lewis Hamilton. He could bring so much experience. And then I think there should be a new driver, a rookie that could join them. It's Colton Herta has been linked with a move to Cadillac. No offense, if a Cadillac team does not have an American driver as a rookie, then that would be weird. I think, no offense, despite what Ben, I think, was saying earlier in the chat about his brilliant performances in 2021, 22, 23, I think Perez's time is done in Formula 1, and I think a rookie should be given a chance to show what they're made of in the Cadillac team in 2026, alongside an experienced driver that's won Constructors' Championships, has won races and stuff like that. And I think just Perez might have had this day, but you never know. If Perez gets into Cadillac in 2026, go get him. I can't wait to see what he could do. But in my opinion, Bottas just has a bit more drive to bring the team forward.
Yeah, I mean, Lindblad, you mentioned, Jess, he's probably the next one up in the ladder, but he's very early in his F2 career, one weekend at Melbourne. We'll have to wait and see what he can do. One thing we didn't mention when we were talking about China last week was they showed a lot of Ayumu Iwata sat on the pit wall during the coverage, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
He's the reserve for both. I guess he's the reserve for both, but he was in Racing Bulls.
RB. It was Racing Bulls, yeah.
Over the weekend. Think back to previous Red Bull pickups, apart from obviously David Coulthard at the very beginning of Red Bull, the only people they've really gone into to use a soccer term, transfer window for, that wasn't already in the system, Mark Webber and Sergio Perez. Everyone else that has come through either of the Red Bull teams, maybe they went and got Max, I suppose, to get him away from Mercedes early on, and they poached Vettel from BMW. You take those two out, and of course they've been supreme. That's 4 out of all of the Red Bull drivers, and we named them pretty much everybody, didn't we, on the show last week when we were doing the list. They don't go they don't get out of their own lane, if that makes sense, to go and get someone. So I don't see that happening. Perez, I guess that is probably his next best option if he wants to come back, and he's got a couple of more years left in him, is to go to Cadillac, perhaps with Colton as his teammate. Maybe there was all that talk about Bottas. I think he probably is. I don't think that's going to be an option. We'll have to wait and see. Been running around in a McLaren this week as Valtteri Bottas at Barcelona, oddly. But yeah, I think, and that's probably Perez's only way back if he can get in with Cadillac in the coming year or so. But even that, to me, is a slim deal.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Red Bull is gonna do if Yuki Tsunoda, ends up flopping like his predecessors have in that second seat. It's just gonna be a really difficult situation. Like you were saying, Matt, if Tsunoda, ends up not performing, he heads need the role, at the very top of Red Bull, like Christian Horner, needs to be held accountable. And, obviously he hasn't been held accountable, for some of the poor decisions he's made as a team principal. And obviously I think there needs to be a new day at Red Bull altogether. I think it would be very beneficial for both sides if Helmut Marko, just, left entirely from the sport and had someone else with a brand new voice at Red Bull. I think that would be very helpful. And Christian Horner move on as well. Do like a full blown rebuild, kind of like you see in your traditional, sports teams. It'd be like things are not going well. It's either going bad or we're just getting tired of hearing the same voice. So we're just gonna blow everything up and start all over. I think that might be the best case scenario for Red Bull, especially in the case of losing both Verstappen and Tsunoda, because the outlook right now for Red Bull doesn't really seem to be positive outside of Verstappen. But who knows? Maybe when Yuki Tsunoda come in, they and Red Bull continue to work on this year's car. Maybe the dynamic can improve, because we know in sports things can change pretty quickly. And in regards to Sergio Perez, I wouldn't be totally against Cadillac bringing him in to lead the team and a young rookie driver, whether it's Colton Herta, Jack Crawford, or someone else. I'm a big fan of redemption stories in sports, and given how his tenure ended at Red Bull, I think it would be really cool to see Checo come back, as a driver with a renewed confidence, and try to go out there, and end his F1 career on his own terms instead of having it end in a really disappointing way as it did last year in Abu Dhabi. And we got Adam in the chat room right here saying that Red Bull isn't the same Red Bull from a few years ago. Yeah, that is very obvious that they're not the same Red Bull at all. And you also asked, could Max Verstappen go road racing after his contract in F1 is done? He does have a sports car team. Yeah, I think the name of his team is Verstappen.com Racing. And we actually reported on his sports car, his GT3 sports car program a few weeks ago. He's gonna be entered in an Aston Martin GT World Challenge Europe for a few drivers there. We'll see how he gets along with that. And yeah, I would not be surprised to see Max Verstappen enter sports car racing when his Formula One career is over. He seems more excited about doing that in his post career rather than, let's say, going to Formula E, IndyCar, anything like that. I would not be surprised to see Max Verstappen in the GT car, or even a prototype in the World Endurance Championship, or even some of the marquee endurance events in IMSA.
Max, do you want to race 8 times a year or 24 times a year with a brand new baby?
That's well true. Before we move on, because we must quickly, to use Kobe's sports team analogy, you think of this as an NFL team. They've lost their offensive coordinator in Adrian Newey. They're not going to get rid of the quarterback in Max Verstappen. So the next person that needs to go is the head coach, and that's Christian Horner.
You're going to be on his case all the week, all season, aren't you?
I am. It's time to go, Christian. I'm sorry.
Well,
Time to go. Live off your days in your Oxfordshire mansion with your horses and ride off into the sunset. Day in life. So the question becomes, how long in the Constructors' Championship? How low, I think he's probably been there. Do they finish in the Constructors' Championship? Well, probably 4th is the lowest they would probably finish, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Could be a completely different Red Bull this time next Wednesday. And I don't mean in the driver market after the weekend.
Oh, it's lights out in Japan very, very soon, of course. Right, just before we let Jess go, because we're going to move on to NASCAR now as well, I just want to pick up on this little tad bit that you've pointed out, and I'm glad you mentioned Adrian Newey, because it's a great segue. The old man has been talking again, and not Bernie Eccleston, though. Helmut Marko has had his say. You know how he's famously said that he doesn't want Yuki in the team. He's never wanted Yuki in the team. He's always wanted Liam in the team. Christian Horner, always wanted Liam in the team. He didn't want Yuki in the team. Well, now that it's had to make the switch, all of a sudden, the old man seems to be having a little bit of dementia. Because he's...
really?
Yeah, because he's been saying how he's always wanted Yuki. Do you know, this sounds so familiar about an old man who's past his best, who's just making up rubbish when everything is getting leaked around him. Evening, Mr. President. Now,
yes. I thought you were going to mention Flavio, but okay.
No.
I thought you were going to mention a certain FIA.
Oh, no. Well, actually, it works on both. Now, speaking to Klein Zooting as well, Helmut Marko said, a lot can be traced back to a single instant. At Silverstone, Tsunoda once drove into Pierre Gasly's car. Parts of the car on the track damaged the underbody of Verstappen's car. Do you remember that race? and both Red Bulls got neutered. Adrian, that cost him the race. Yeah, what was it? 2022 when he was with Schumacher. Adrian Newey was furious at the time, and from that point on, Yuki was a red rag to him. But now Newey is gone, and Yuki has worked hard himself. So basically, they're now pushing the blame onto Adrian Newey. And the article continues to say that over the winter break, it was Adrian Newey who said that he shouldn't be promoted to the main team. To which Amanda Newey, who is the wife of Adrian, has said, that's funny because he was on gardening leave. He wasn't there. He'd left in Miami. So they are literally
making excuses, maybe?
Caught in a lie.
It is, it makes my blood boil. But what a scoop, actually, as well, from Klein there. And I'll send the link to Kobe so he can put it in. It's in German, but I'll send the link down as well so we can post it in during the next segment. But, oh, wow. It's Helmut Marko, the Jerry Jones equivalent. I think he's Tucker Carlson, to be fair, in all honesty. He's making up rubbish as we go along. Anyway. Well, they tried to retire him several times, but the problem is he's not. It's weird because Helmut Marko is not actually a Red Bull employee, but he's a Red Bull ambassador. So he's not actually directly involved in the Formula One program, but he's so involved in the whole program that he sort of now is Red Bull. There's a power grab going on between the tie owners, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and even Jos Verstappen, all trying to get Dieter Mateschitz' control after he passed.
We saw that after the Horner stuff at the beginning of last year, didn't we? Yeah. All that was going on in the background. Old man yelling at clouds. More of that to come when we get to Hots and Knots, by the way.
Yes.
And that'll be news.
Okay, I'm going to let Jess go now as we'll talk NASCAR. Jess, what are you most looking forward to out of Japan?
I'm hoping that Tsunoda proves the critics wrong and does well for Red Bull this weekend. And I would like to see a different winner in Japan, but we'll see how it goes. And I love the Haas livery for Japan this week. It's brilliant. One of my favourite liveries on the grid.
Every single team that Esteban Ocon seems to go to, we can't escape a pink livery. So that's something to come through. And After Dark, yes, you'll be on After Dark.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will be on at 4 a.m. UK time, so I need to be up by that. But see you then.
I don't know if I'll be on for that. I hope I will be, but we might be in pre-production for our own show because we start at 5. Okay, thanks, Jess. See you then. And I look forward to After Dark as well. Okay, and I hope Alonso doesn't have problems, says John. Yeah, DNF in 2 races. Megan's very much not happy. Okay, moving on to the NASCAR Xfinity Series now, because the Xfinity Series regular, Jesse Love, will make his Cup Series debut at Bristol Motor Speedway next weekend on April the 13th. Love will drive the number 33 Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing with sponsorship from C4 Ultimate Energy. Now, when we talk about some of the highly touted young prospects like Connor Zilic and Corey Heim being future star drivers on Sundays, Love is one of those drivers. Now, on the road to his Cup Series debut, Love won back-to-back ARCA Menard Series West titles in 2020 and 2021, becoming the youngest champion in NASCAR history at age 16. In 2023, he won the ARCA National title and skipped running full-time in the Truck Series to compete in the Xfinity Series, instead with the RCR starting in 2024. In his second full year in Xfinity, Love has 2 career wins at Talladega and Daytona, with lots of strong runs proving why he deserves this Cup opportunity. Now, Love said racing in the Cup Series has always been his main goal and dream, and recognizing that debuting in NASCAR's top division at 20 years old is very special. On last week's show, we mentioned his Xfinity Series teammate Austin Hill was also getting some seat time in RCR's number 33 Cup car for 5 races. Earlier in the season, on the Grid Encore show, Ben Schneider and Tanner Smith debated who'd be the better prospect if a full-time Cup seat opened up at RCR, the young Love or his more experienced teammate Hill. Graphic courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. Matt, given how successful Jesse Love has been in his young career, is this the right time for him to make his Cup Series debut? And let's also hear your take, please, on this one. Is Love or Hill the better prospect for a full-time seat at RCR in 2026 if one does open up?
Well, yeah, and perhaps one will. We'll watch this space for that one. Really enjoyed watching Jesse Love over these last couple of years. Clearly, the guy has got a huge amount of talent. He wouldn't be winning all those races down in ARCA and already in Xfinity if he didn't have that. So, yeah, very pleased to see him getting a chance here to show what he can do in the Cup Series. Bristol, of course, not an easy place to go and make your Cup Series debut. He'll be amongst the madness, I'm sure, in the back half of the field next Sunday. Love versus Hill. Love is 20, Hill is 30. Austin Hill, of course, he's been in the Xfinity Series for many years now. The all-time winner, I think he is now on super speedways in that series. Of course, picked up the pieces, which we'll get to in a minute, last Saturday to win at Martinsville. I think his ship bus, whatever, up to the Cup Series for Austin Hill perhaps has sailed and he's missed it. Where they've got, as you mentioned, Josh, we've got this next wave of youngsters coming through, of which Jesse Love is one of them. Perhaps they're ready to, even if Austin maybe jumps in for a season there when we have Austin and Austin at RCR alongside Dylan, if Kyle Busch does step away from the team or the sport entirely. And then they've got Love as the second bullet in the chamber and the gun there, ready to bring in, if needs be, as the young hot shoe. So if I was anywhere in this decision making, then I would choose Jesse Love. But let's see how he goes over these next couple of Cup races that he's got. And then they've got a sort of not quite a back-to-back comparison with Austin Hill. We know what we're getting with Austin, but A Day in Life says the same. Jesse Love, a much better long-term prospect for RCR. And as I said, he's got 10 years on Austin Hill straight away off the bat.
Yes, I think the Fox guy said it, didn't they, over the weekend? Ageism. That's one thing that's starting to creep into NASCAR. Is in all sports this weekend as well. In the modern era of racing, younger is always better. I feel a bit old myself, sitting sometimes in the commentary box with all these young pups surrounding us these days. I feel older already. So, after intentionally wrecking Taylor Gray in an attempt to win last Saturday's wild NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Martinsville Speedway, Sammy Smith was penalized for his actions. The JR Motorsports driver was docked 50 points, dropping him from 6th to 13th in the points, including a $25,000 fine. This has been a hot topic for the last several days, and it continues to be a topic that many will be talking about heading into Darlington this weekend. Following the chaotic last lap, Smith was not apologetic at all and doubled down on his behaviour by saying that this is what you have to do to win races, as he was angered at Gray for flipping him off during the red flag and swerving at him. Smith and Gray had a heated confrontation outside the infield care centre, but security separated both drivers to prevent a fight from taking place. Oh. Now, right before Smith spun Gray out of the lead on the final lap, his team owner, Dale Earnhardt Jr., posted on X that Martinsville is a historic track in NASCAR and deserved better. He was reacting to the messy racing we had witnessed up until the biggest mess of them all on the last lap. Then he watched his own driver let down the whole organization by racing the way that he did. On his podcast, the Dale Jr. Download, he said that he had a conversation with Smith and let him know that his actions damaged his reputation in the garage. He was blunt and told his young JRM driver that he gave everyone the perception that he's a spoiled punk. Earnhardt Jr. also said that Smith has now shown remorse after the incident, understanding how badly this makes him and his whole team look. But he's going to continue to stand by Smith during this time and continue to coach him into making better decisions on the track. Eric Peterson, the managing director of the Xfinity Series, said, "We all want to see hard racing, door-to-door action, and acknowledge that contact is part of NASCAR's DNA. But after reviewing all available evidence, Smith crossed the line, and they felt that they needed to react to this. Peterson added that NASCAR will meet with the entire Xfinity Series field before this Saturday's race at Darlington. On a separate note, Gray and Jeb Burton were each fined $5,000 for exhibiting poor behavior in the infield care center after the race. The photo taken by Jonathan Bachman from Getty Images. I mean, come on. I was promised a fight coming in to do the broadcasting. I haven't had one yet. And the one we did, I was ill in hospital. So that's great. Matt, what's your reaction to the final lap fiasco of the Xfinity Series race at Martinsville, the Sammy Smith penalty, and what needs to be done to clean up poor driving standards among the young drivers? And he said, and Staying Alive says he's ruined his reputation in one corner.
I've only seen that green-white checker at the end of the race from Saturday, and that was enough for me. What a mess. An absolute shambles. This was going to be in knots later, but I've actually wrote it on my phone, Xfinity Madness, to remind me to come back to it, but didn't realize we were going to be having this whole segment about it. So here we are. What a mess. He had to do that to win the race. No, you don't. The thought that went through my head Sunday after watching that back was, and we've talked about this a little bit on this show fairly recently, is it was more to do with the Helio Castro Neves Daytona stuff, but it's the same deal. The youngsters aren't allowed to run on the big tracks because they're not experienced enough and too young, like they don't go to Daytona or Talladega. So they get them on all the small tracks. And then we see this. What are we doing here? So they can't go on the big tracks because they might cause really bad accidents. So let's put them on the small tracks where they cause multiple accidents. There was over 100 laps of caution in a 200-lap race or whatever, something crazy the stat was on Saturday. But that's not the first time this has happened at Martinsville over the last handful of years. The playoff race there last fall was a bit messy towards the end. There was a Ty Gibbs, I think it was Chandler Smith fight there a couple of years ago in a spring race too. So I know tempers get heated and such and such like. This is a race in the spring. He didn't need to push him out of the way. It wasn't like he needed to move Gray out of the way to secure his spot in the championship race at Phoenix, because we've still got 20 plus races or whatever it is to go in this. He's got plenty of more opportunities in a good car in the championship winning team from last year to get himself in to the playoff picture. So really poor form from Sammy Smith, and Staying Alive said he's ruined his reputation. He's got a lot of building to do, building back over these next couple of months to get himself back to kind of where he was, I suppose. But great to see and hear that his team boss on his own podcast, was rubbishing him for what he did, and those pretty strong comments there that Josh, that you read from Dale Earnhardt Jr. this week. So I think everyone's pretty much in agreement. Monetary fines in the current motorsport realm mean absolutely nothing to anybody, frankly, unless you're going to absolutely throw the Brinks truck at people. So that's by the by. Lessons will be learned. Let's hope that this sit-down meeting with all the drivers this weekend coming up at Darlington actually does turn a few heads straight the right way, because we could have something fairly similar maybe at Bristol in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, the series goes back to Rockingham for the first time ever. Let's not make that an embarrassment on Easter weekend, because that would be a bad look for everybody.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that, actually, with no Cup on Easter weekend as well. If I'm just that, it's going to be very good. We get that off for once. Like last year when we showed.
Corrected me saying it was Sam Mayer and Ty Gibbs that had that altercation a couple of years ago that I said was Chandler Smith. Adam says, as someone who watched NASCAR for 35 years, that wasn't clean racing regarding the situation. No, it wasn't. It was just bumper cars, demolition derby stuff. Last man standing, and the person that was on the third row on that restart, Austin Hill, ended up winning the race, which just silly.
Comes something when I did all three races over the weekend, presented trucks, led the commentary on Xfinity, and took over lead on Cup, and the cleanest was the trucks, and the most exciting was the trucks. It was weird. I really enjoyed that one. If you haven't, please do go onto the JB Motorsport socials and take a look at the USRN and JBM crew absolutely losing it over Fox doing a Santa Claus. It was quite funny. We'll get to that in Hots and Knots actually as well, because that is one of our hots. I'm really struggling. But we need to be careful not to overreact. This isn't a weekly occurrence in the series. 6 good races this year and 1 very bad one as well. Yeah, that's key actually, isn't it, Matt? Because the Xfinity has been class this year. It's just as soon as they come to this track, Martinsville, it's all gone a bit wrong.
Yeah, it seems like it, and this does happen as I was trying to sort of mention, over the last couple of years, we've had incidents here of varying degrees in the spring race and the fall race. So back to some sort of normality at Darlington this coming week, and hopefully, as I said, all the drivers get a bit of a talking to at the weekend, because it has. I haven't seen any of the races yet from this year because I'm behind, as many of our regular viewers will know, but it sounds like it's been really, really good in terms of broadcast and racing quality over these last few weeks. So let's not let the bad apple spoil the rest of the bunch.
Do you think NASCAR should get drivers standings for Xfinity Series and the Craftsman Series as well?
I mean, it was pretty blatant, wasn't it, at the end of the race last week? I don't think 50k solves anything, because we're just going to see that again at more short tracks down the road, and especially in the playoffs.
Okay, and we'll see this because I need a break as well to sort my neck out. Yesterday, in what proved not to be an April Fool's Day joke, Legacy Motor Club is suing fellow NASCAR Cup Series team Rick Ware Racing. First reported by Jeff Clark and Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic, Legacy MC filed a lawsuit against RWR in the Mecklenburg County Clerk of Superior Court relating to a dispute over a charter purchase gone wrong. Now, Grid Network has reviewed the redacted online court documents, 46 pages long, with some juicy details along the way. We've all read them, and they're all very interesting as well. It says, starting in October 2024, Legacy MC started the process of identifying a third charter because the team plans to expand to a 3-car team for the 2026 Cup Series season. Now, during that process, Legacy MC learned that team owner Rick Ware had a charter on the market for purchase. In a blunt statement, Legacy MC said that RWR needed to sell one of its charters because they were strapped for cash and unable to compete at the Cup Series level because it's owned and by its own admission. On the morning of January 5th, 2025, Legacy MC CEO Carl Wells III met with Rick Ware and his broker to negotiate a deal to buy the charter. Then, on March the 3rd, 2025, both teams agreed to transfer the charter from RWR to Legacy MC. Despite having a deal in place, Legacy MC accused RWR of backing out and refusing to close the transaction under any circumstances. Now, Legacy MC said that they tried to talk some sense into RWR and their patience ran out. So they felt like they had no choice but to file this lawsuit to hold RWR to its deal. Now, according to The Athletic, multiple sources who can't speak out about this lawsuit publicly has said that RWR thought the charter transfer would take place ahead of the 2027 Cup Series season. But Legacy MC allegedly changed the year to 2026 without communicating that to Rick Ware or other RWR representatives. Gluck and Bianchi's report added that Ware learned about the change after he had signed the contract and said the deal was off. Legacy MC also took a shot at RWR's performance in the Cup Series, saying at the same time that Legacy MC has charted a path forward, RWR has flagged and flailed in the rear. Now, link to this article is in the video description below, and the photo is courtesy of the Legacy Motor Club. Rick Ware Racing have put out a statement, thanks to Bob Pockras here, who says RWR spokesman on the Legacy lawsuit against RWR. This is the statement. This lawsuit distorts the actual facts and is a misguided attempt to tarnish our reputation. RWR has negotiated in good faith and operated with the highest standards of integrity and professionalism. We are confident that the truth will prevail and look forward to swiftly resolving this matter through the proper legal channels. Well, okay, this is not an April Fool's joke. This is actually 100% true. Given where they are right now in performance, should Legacy Motor Club be trying to expand to a 3-car organization next year? And do the details in this lawsuit seem to indicate that Rick Ware is looking for a way out of the Cup Series?
Well, interesting, isn't it? Lots of sort of bits and pieces to this story. First of all, let's hope there isn't any, actual crime or anything going on in the Charlotte NASCAR area, because the courts are all stuffed up with this and the 2311 versus NASCAR stuff. Rick Ware have been a struggling team for a while. That we can say fairly strongly. That comment about Legacy charting their way towards the front, well, that's a slow boat, isn't it, that one? Because they've not been great. There's been some spells of speed from Eric Jones, but Jonathan Nemechek hasn't. Okay, he had some good results at the beginning of the season, but they kind of fell his way, especially at Daytona. It's not been brilliant, has it, since all of that Jimmy Johnson came in and they changed the name and went to Toyota and everything else. So it's not been great, which makes you think they probably are running before they can walk here by trying to go with a third team. But maybe they feel like having more eggs in their basket, more data, all that kind of thing would improve their performance. Interesting to see how this one pans out, but little details here and there about when the charter was going to switch, in what year, and all that kind of thing. It's just little sort of niggly things, but to me, seems like a change of mind perhaps from the Rick Ware organization or Rick himself after a deal was done, signed off. I'm sorry. If that is the case, then I'm afraid it's too late for that, and he's going to be one charter down. It looks like, and it's going to LMC.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? We've been waiting for this one, and it's time. First of all, before we get to the big crescendo, I'm trying to do my best impression here of
Bruce Buffer.
Yeah, Supercars. Buck Feeney was seen at Trackhouse Racing with SVG at Martinsville last weekend. Is there a possibility of Buck Feeney cameo in NASCAR for Trackhouse this year after this sighting? What do you think, Matt?
Maybe. A lot of the road courses for NASCAR do actually clash with Supercars rounds, which is the problem. I know we saw Cam Waters go across and do some Truck Series races last year on ovals. So it's possible. Interesting. If Red Bull perhaps would fund Feeney, Adam says he doesn't think so. I think Brock has got a long way in front of him in terms of his career path and time. So maybe, but I think if it happens, it's a long way down the track. And obviously his teammate Will Brown was in a Cup Series car last year at Sonoma. So plenty of NASCAR ambitions perhaps within the T8 Red Bull stable.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for since the start of the season. It's back, and it's better than ever. For the first time this year, let's head down and get ready to read the results. Here's Matt White with the latest from the Grid EPI update.
We're going big. It's week one proper of 2025 for the Grid Endurance Performance Index, and it's now 12 races down of 159, the biggest championship in the world of sports cars, combining all of them, WEC, IMSA, the DTM, stuff at the Nürburgring, all of the GT World Challenge races across the world, Europe, Asia, America, Australia, all of those, British GT, which starts this weekend, and as well as the European Le Mans Series. The last two races pre-leaderboard took place this weekend at Sonoma, where the GT World Challenge America got underway. On Saturday, the JMF Motorsports team took victory with their Mercedes. Michael Grenier, as part of that driving squad, there is the winning car. And Misha Stevens, in his very first race in the championship, getting the win overall. 4 cars in the Pro category. They were the winners. The 5th place finisher in the race was the winner in Pro-Am, and that was the Turner BMW, Justin Rothberg and Robbie Foley. As you can see, beautiful day on Saturday. Sunday, the rain came to California, and a much delayed race, a lot of it run under safety car on Sunday afternoon, was won by the Porsche on screen there with the Random Vandals team, Kenton Cook and Connor De Filippi getting the victory. Regulator Racing won in Pro-Am with Phil Ellis and Jeff Burton. No, not that one, another one. Photos courtesy in this segment of SRO America. And that brings us then to this, the first leaderboard of the season, and a familiar EPI name is at the top of it of the start of the season, and that is the Belgian Laurens Van Voort, one of last year's World Endurance champions for Porsche. 17.87 is his score. As you can see, 2 wins. That was at Daytona and at Sebring as part of IMSA. Didn't score a top 10 in the opening race of the WEC at Qatar. So not a perfect score so far for Larry, but he is top of the leaderboard there in a much BMW filled. Much BMW field, but also Porsche field, top 10. Raffaele Marcello and Danny Juncadella in there. Juncadella and Sheldon van der Linde, of course, were part of the winning squad at Bathurst for the 12-hour. Michael Jensen and Valerio Rinicello there, part of the Asian Le Mans Series winning squad as well. So that's week 1 of the Grid EPI. That's the top 10. Plenty of shuffling will occur over the next however many weeks, all the way through to November. And after almost 160 races, 12 down of the 159. This weekend we have, trying to count off the top of my head, 5 more. British GT at Donington. There's the top 50 as it stands, by the way, on screen. We'll always do the top 10 and the top 50. Look out for your favourite driver. Plenty of them not yet eligible because you need to make at least 3 starts to become eligible in the leaderboard. This weekend, as I said, British GT at Donington Park. Phillip Island hosts the first round of the GT World Challenge Australia with 2 races there. And the European season gets underway at Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona with the European Le Mans Series. Plenty more European Le Mans Series stuff over the next few weeks from us as we get ready for Silverstone in September, which hopefully me and Josh are still aiming to be at trackside for a Grid EPI special. So there is the top 50. There are the races to come this weekend. We'll give you all the runners and riders and photos as well as we head into week 2 of the 2025 Grid Endurance Performance Index on Grid Tonight next week. Let's hand to Kobe now. Plenty more of headlines from the week that was.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. After making the switch from Formula 3 to Indy Next, Sophia Flores and HMD Motorsports have mutually agreed to part ways. Flores had originally signed on to run full-time in Indy Next and only competed in the St. Pete season opener for the team, where she finished 12th in her series debut. According to Marsha Pruitt from Racer.com, there was a miscommunication between her team and primary sponsor, which led to Flores' abrupt departure from the series. In a statement, the team wished her the best in her future endeavors and said they're actively considering driver options to replace Flores in the number 24 car for the remaining races and upcoming test days. Be on the lookout for more on Flores losing her Indy Next seat on a future episode of Women in Motorsport, photo taken by Joe Skabinski from Penske Entertainment. The North Carolina Department of Transportation's Rail Division will celebrate NASCAR's return to Rockingham Speedway on Easter weekend by running a special train from Raleigh to the racetrack. The train that's being called the Rockingham Special will run one day only on Saturday, April 19th, the same day as the Xfinity race. The morning train is scheduled to depart the Raleigh Union Station at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Then it will make 2 stops, one in Cary at 9:15 a.m. and a second one in Southern Pines at 10:28 a.m. before arriving at the Rock around 11:06 a.m. Once the Xfinity race is over, the evening train is scheduled to depart the track at 7:30 p.m. with scheduled stops in Southern Pines at 8:08 p.m. and Cary at 9:21 p.m. before the train returns to Raleigh Union Station shortly after 9:30 p.m. NCDOT Secretary Joey Hopkins said special trains like this provide opportunities to introduce people to the amazing passenger rail service available in North Carolina. The Rockingham Special train tickets cost $25 each way, and you can purchase them on Amtrak's website. Photo courtesy of the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Formula 2 driver Victor Martins is joining the Williams Racing Driver Academy. Martins is currently entering his 3rd year competing in F2 with ART Grand Prix and currently has 2 wins, one in the Silverstone feature race and the other in the Barcelona sprint race. He joins fellow F2 competitor Luke Brown, and as a Williams development driver, both will get an opportunity to test the FW45 Williams F1 car this weekend in Monza. Martin said that Williams is an iconic team with an incredible history and believes this is the best place to help him achieve his goals of becoming a Formula One driver in the future. Graphic courtesy of the team. For the first time in the history of the Cars Tour, Fox Sports 1 will carry live flag-to-flag coverage of the 100-lap late model stock car tour race at North Wilkesboro Speedway during NASCAR All-Star Race Weekend. FS1 and Flow Racing have entered a historic agreement to broadcast the Cars Tour in front of its largest audience in series history on Friday, May 16th. Flow Racing's Cars Tour play-by-play broadcaster Eric Brennan will also lead the broadcast on FS1 with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick joining him in the booth. Earnhardt Jr. and Harvick are part of the Cars Tour ownership group, which also consists of Jeff Burton, Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks. Blake McCandless will serve as pit road reporter alongside another FS1 reporter to be announced at a later date. Despite the race being shown live on FS1, Flow Racing will continue to provide standalone coverage at North Wilkesboro, and its subscribers will still be able to watch this race live on Flow Racing. We'll also see Flow Racing show practice and qualifying for both divisions in the Cars Tour, including the 75-lap Pro Late Model Tour feature scheduled for Thursday, May 15th. Cars Tour Executive Director Kip Childress said the primary mission is to put drivers, teams, and partners in front of as many race fans as possible. On X, Earnhardt Jr. added praise for Harvick for having the ambition to present this idea months ago, which is now a reality. Graphic courtesy of the Cars Tour. Amazon Prime Video will become a presenting sponsor of Kyle Larson's second attempt at the double on Memorial Day weekend. Larson's participation in this year's Indianapolis 500 and Coca-Cola 600 on the same day is being called the hashtag Hendrick 1100, presented by Prime Video. We'll see Prime Video branded on his number 17 Arrow McLaren Hendrick Cars.com Chevrolet and Indy cars you see right here on the screen, and on his number 5 Hendrick Motorsport Chevrolet and NASCAR. To go along with the sponsorship, Prime Video also announced a feature-length documentary showcasing Larson's double attempt. Filming began for this project in October 2023, and it will highlight both attempts in 2024 and 2025. The documentary is scheduled to launch in 2026 on Prime Video. Stacy Rosenson, head of U.S. sports marketing for Prime Video, said Larson's double attempt is one of the most exciting storylines in sports and believes it's a truly unique opportunity for this historic moment to unfold live on Prime Video. Graphics courtesy of Hendrick Motorsports. And following his departure as president of the NTT IndyCar Series, Jay Fry is staying in the IndyCar paddock by becoming a new team president of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Fry will report directly to team ownership and will oversee RLL's IndyCar program and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships BMW GTP program. He said RLL has the foundation, infrastructure, and incredible commitment to continue being successful well into the future. The team has also parted ways with Chief Operating Officer Steve Erickson. Team co-owner Bobby Rahal thanked Erickson for being a part of the team at a critical moment for the company and thinks very highly of Fry's character and passion for the sport. Photo courtesy of Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And also interesting that Jay Fry got this job because shortly after IndyCar announced that they parted ways with Jay Fry as the president of IndyCar and, bringing in Doug Bowles from IMS. Graham Rahal tweeted this right after this, saying, "I won't sugarcoat it. Jay Fry is the best man I've worked with in my years of racing. Make no mistake, this is a bummer to see him go. I'm excited for the future of IndyCar, you bet. I'm disappointed to see a man of high class, integrity, and great vision leave." Damn right. So from February all the way to April, it seemed like Graham Rahal had his eye on Jay Fry this entire time, and I guess RLL finally got their man. I'm sure Graham is very happy to have Jay Fry join the organization. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise to see him land at this team. Steve Phelps received a promotion, becoming the first commissioner of NASCAR. As the new commissioner, Phelps will oversee all aspects of NASCAR, including IMSA and the 15 NASCAR-owned or operated tracks. With Phelps becoming the commissioner, Chief Operating Officer Steve O'Donnell will replace him as the sixth president in NASCAR history. To go along with his increased leadership role, O'Donnell will also oversee major investments in content creation and distribution through the new NASCAR production facility in Concord, North Carolina, and the NASCAR Studios team. NASCAR chairman and CEO Jim France said, with more than 50 years of expertise between them, both men will bring tremendous expertise, stability, and a commitment to bold racing innovations that will continue to serve fans, teams, and stakeholders for many years to come. Photo courtesy of NASCAR. Longtime Porsche sports car driver Adam Adelson has purchased Wright Motorsports from team founder John Wright. The sale was finalized last December, but John Wright will remain involved by offering his expertise and guidance as Adelson and Chief Operating Officer Bob Vigiloni take the team forward into a new era of team ownership. Wright said when Adelson first approached him about owning a race team of his own, he felt that it was the perfect time because he was already close to making a transition, whether he sold the team outright or pursued a different ownership model. However, he feels like he left his longtime team in the right hands with Adam Adelson, who said that John Wright has built one of the most respected teams in the paddock and does not plan to change the quality and family-like culture that defines Wright as they look to expand next year in IMSA, SRO, Porsche Carrera Cup, and more. Photo courtesy of Wright Motorsports. And last but not least tonight, U.S.-based team Richard Childress Racing will be competing in the NASCAR Euro Series this year. They'll have a familiar car number and manufacturer with the number 30 Ford Mustang, and they'll have support from Hendricks Motorsport, one of the most successful teams in Euro Series history. Liam Hesselmans and Jill Leinster will be the drivers, with Hesselmans competing for the Pro title and Leinster in the Open Championship. Greg Zipadelli, who was recently appointed Vice President of Business Operations for the team, will oversee the Euro Series program, which will be based in Europe. Zipadelli previously served as an executive at Stewart-Haas Racing. Team co-owner Terry Jones said he's excited about the expansion to Europe and has a long-term vision for providing a path for Hesselmans and Leinster to have opportunities to race in the United States in the future. Graphic courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. And that's all of the headlines I have for this week. So I'll turn it over to Matt for this week's Hots and Knots.
Thank you, Kobe. Before we get to Hots and Knots, a quick reminder about Pick a Winner. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but just a reminder that this weekend it is NASCAR at Darlington and F1 at Suzuka. Get your picks in using the hashtag Pick a Winner across all of the Grid Network TV social medias. And I'm sure the guys on Grid After Dark will be talking about it in the pre-race on the very early hours of Sunday morning for us here in the UK. Before the race on Sunday, Josh is going to slide back in here for Hots and Knots from, I guess we need to start at Kota, Josh, do we? Here he is, sliding back in, like Marquez was sliding across the tarmac. Should we start at Kota with some Hots and some Knots?
Yes.
Let me just bring back up my list because I've forgotten what I wrote down apart in Hot. Oh, before we go to Kota quickly, more bike hotness was from Portimao at the weekend for World Superbike. The second race on Sunday, the last race of the weekend, Top Rack versus Bullegger, race of the year so far. It was sensational.
I literally left the commentary box after all three races going, that was great.
They were really good.
What's going to happen next? I can't wait for you to join me in the box one of these this year. I really hope you get the time.
Get that organised. There was lots to talk about from MotoGP. Most of it is notness, but the hotness from Kota weekend again. Jake Dixon, what a tremendous ride for a second week in a row. We're waving the invisible GB flag for our championship leader in Moto2.
If I go like that,
very good. Yeah, very good.
I've got so many microphones. I feel like a politician. Hang on. There we go. Get them all then.
Yeah. I'll slide my phone in on the desk underneath you to record like they do in Ted Lasso. My only other hot quickly is that I'm going to the racetrack at the weekend. I'm at Silverstone on Saturday, my first outing at a racetrack since before the pandemic.
Wow, you're being let out.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. I've been let out and I'm taking one of the children with me. So we're going to Britcar at the weekend at Silverstone with the oldest daughter and my nephew and sister-in-law. So two 45-minute races for Britcar. There's two CVs. The British Superkart Championship as well. So much fun will hopefully be had as long as we get the weather that we've had for the beginning of this week, because if it rains, it'll be rubbish. So that is my hot. I will tell you all about it, I'm sure, probably in this segment next week.
I can't wait. And of course, 2 weeks we're trackside at Donny for Media Day. That's what this is all about. The wireless XLR transmitter, turning our normal mics that are cabled to wireless because I'm not spending. I'm not spending money on thousands of pounds when I could spend. This was 80, but it's now 100 on a perfectly good transmitter that works. We've tested it. We've been walking up and down the street. It really works.
Of course you have.
Yeah, I've just been walking up and down, and the neighbours have been looking at me when I'm going with Mum on the phone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me? Because she's sat in here with the speakers on. So we can
Oh my goodness, it's a sparrow in the garden of number 6. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got a couple of things actually. So yeah,
thank you, Joe. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a fun track, Silverstone, and hopefully we do get to go. Here's the ones
It's
we
on
would be using.
They're on the wing end of Silverstone on the short track, the international they call it. So
I have our mics waiting for interviews.
Oh, very good.
Already. But yeah, Jake Dixon, what a race from him. He's not done the Conor McGregor. I said in commentary he wasn't doing Ewan McGregor's dance. I was like, these aren't the dances you're looking
the
for.
arm thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Conor McGregor. I got it. Yeah, and he didn't do that, which is great.
These are not the 25 points you were looking for.
Yeah. Is it too early to say he could be world champion?
Well, I posted this on social media. Let me bring this up on my phone because it's in the app I'm using with my notes. Where is it? Here, I did a 2025 predictions thing. It says on the bottom, edited 11th of Jan. And next to Moto 2, I wrote the words Jake and Dixon.
Oh.
So,
yes.
Hopefully. Denver says Supercars hot is that New Zealand is getting a second round on the calendar next year. Yeah, Ruapuna, I saw that a couple of hours ago on Speed Cafe. They were talking about that. So we might have 2 rounds of Supercars in New Zealand next year, which is good. And they're at Taupo in next weekend.
I just wish there'd be a New Zealand Formula 1 Grand Prix. It's screaming out for it.
It would be cool.
Because yeah, exactly, yeah. Or just do a complete lap of the globe, start in Australia, end in New Zealand is the last race. I'd take that. To me, I'd feel whole.
Christchurch Grand Prix to finish the season.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Fully enjoy Silverstone. See you for Matt. Bagnaia winning. Yeah, and I think Adam's right with what he said there. Let's give credit because as everyone's been writing out over the past 3 days, they point out first Marc Marquez teammate to beat him in 8 years or win a race in 8 years since Pedrosa when he retired.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but who the hell cares? That's not the thing to say that he's the first one to win a race since then, because it should be Pecco Bagnaia, the man who won 10 races last year, finally wins after a difficult start to the season. Now, I've criticised him a lot on this channel, and rightly so, because I think he looked into the last championships, and so did Martin, and so did Quartararo, because Mark wasn't on the grid, and I'm being proved right because Mark is absolutely schooling them until he makes stupid decisions. We'll go to that in a minute. But Bagnaia is still a good racer. He is a world champion, and he just had his confidence knocked a bit. And as soon as Mark went down, we saw why he could be and is a world champion with how he just immediately set off in the distance and dropped against Alex. That was brilliant. So top dog there. Knots, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say any more hots, but I'm not sure there was. It wasn't really a week. Santa's, yes. Go on the JB. Go on the JB channels to look at that. Adam says not. Xfinity race at Martinsville, plain and simple. Yeah, we touched on that. And as I said, I had it written down in my list. Denver also agrees. Xfinity Series race at Martinsville. What's hot? All the Cup drivers, NASCAR legends, and media outlets trashing all the Xfinity driving standards. Yes, giving the big wagging finger to all of the guys down there in Xfinity land. Not.
Which finger?
Well, this index finger. Not from MotoGP land. Moto 2, not. Championship leader on the front row decides to gamble on the wrong tyre. That went well. And after lap 1, when they were 20 seconds, they were losing 20 seconds a lap. It's game over. So is Celestino Vietti crashing twice in 2 corners. That was a nod, wasn't it?
It took me by surprise. I didn't think it was him for a second.
I was like, is this a replay? What's going on here? Oh no, he's crashed again. 2 corners in a row. From a podium position as well. So that wasn't good. The safety car being shunted pre-MotoGP race, the BMW.
Yeah, the reason why we actually had the start delayed as well, because they realised
the initial start delay, yeah.
And it was like, well, yeah, that was a bit bizarre, wasn't it? Nobody mentioned that.
with Imagine Dragons in the background on the PA. I was like, oh, great. My favourite band, and they're going to be tainted with that now forevermore.
I'm so glad
and
you
then-
mentioned that. Actually, go on.
Go on.
No, well,
No, go
no,
on.
it was just a heart. I was messaging with Maddie over the weekend because Simon was on the commentary in the background, and you know when we had a crash for who was it? Who crashed and everybody's really
Oscar?
upset. Yeah, I think it could have been him.
Or Mia.
It's one of the rookies. He was doing really well. He was high up the order.
Oh, Aldeguer.
Yeah, that was it. When he crashed at turn 11. And I sent a voice note to Maddie mid-race. And I said, Maddie, we can hear your husband in the background. And when Agur crashed, he went, ah! and she put, lol, whatever they see in the replays. Ha. So, yeah. So, yeah. Also, she can type incredibly quickly, that woman. She's writing a book.
Of course she is. Marquez and all the race start stuff was obviously a knot because it was just a bit of a shambles. The fact that the MotoGP had gone to their video package in the F1 driver style thing that everyone now is copying because F1 did it. Mark running off the grid, and because it was Marquez that ran off the grid, everyone went, "What's he doing? Let's follow him."
Yeah, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, indeed, the Pied Piper of the MotoGP paddock, Mark Marquez.
Megan had literally just walked into the commentary box, sat down, was getting her headphones. I don't think she had them on at the time. I was taking a swig of drink, getting my notes together that were on the desk with making sure I had the grid and all the starting orders. One headphone off. I was clearing my throat, and the music was playing. And all of a sudden, it cuts, and I look up, and there's Mark dashing down the pit lane. I'm going, "What's going on here?" And then we have to fight to get microphones on because there's dead air, because there's no Gavin, there's no Susie, there's nothing. And then there's the replay of Susie just looking like that.
Yeah, it's funny.
Mark was he planned it. It was premeditated.
Yeah, he did.
And what can I get away with? What a cocky move. I think that I can get away with that, can't I?
Yeah. To anyone that didn't see it, it had rained, as I mentioned with Moto2. It was wet, but it had dried. When they did the sighting lap to the grid, it was still dampish, and everybody was on wets, I think, for that lap.
Yeah.
Some people put slick tires on the grid before the warm up lap.
Sammy crashed, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd fallen off, and then Mark just decided to take everybody down pit lane, and then race control couldn't count to 10. And that's what. Well, yeah, and that's why there was a confusion and then a red flag, and Maverick Vinales had no bike because his had broken down, and he was on the grid going, "What am I doing? What's going on?" In typical Maverick fashion.
Kobe's put Mark was playing chess instead of checkers.
yeah, absolutely. And then he should have won. He should have won, and then he made a silly mistake by touching a wet curb and falling off.
The thing is, he is the king of Kota, but it's every time it's damp here, he makes that same mistake of touching the curbs. Yeah. He's done it 3 years running now.
His two biggest errors in my mind are from Kota. This weekend, and the one in 19, was it, when he was even further out in front and fell off.
And he did it last year, didn't he, when he was on the Grassini bike at 10-11? So it's just daft. But I am kind of worried. It is set a precedent here. It's 2019 all over again. Wins the first two races, crashes out in the third, and now he's either going to be second or first as we go along.
The rest of the season, perhaps. Adam says another hot, iconic throwback paint schemes at Darlington this weekend. I mentioned it'll be old man shouting at clouds earlier. Mine is April Fool's Day is a knot. I'm just sick to the. We've got 365 days of rubbish on the internet. We don't need it all on the one day. And my other shouting at clouds moment is I'm done with the throwback paint schemes. Sorry, Adam. It does not do anything for me.
I mean, we try and do throwback weekend. Oh, where is it? Hang on. Let me go wireless.
It doesn't do anything for me at all.
Really? Here it is.
It makes the current schemes better, and then we wouldn't have to go, look what it used to look like. I'm kind of done with throwback schemes. Better. The quicker we get through Darlington, the better.
That's our throwback livery that we use at Darlington. The old JV Motorsports flag logo. In fact, this is one. Hang on a minute. See me doing this live. There we go. That's our Darlington throwback because it looks like this now.
Denver says hot Denny Hamlin finally becoming a leader of NASCAR. What not NASCAR board leaders as a collective is not stepping up.
Yeah, let me switch back. So, have we gone over the fad of having a throwback weekend? Because we could use old grid graphics if we wanted to.
I think we are at the weekend. In fact,
are we really?
We might be doing such thing.
I'll get mine out.
I'm just a bit done with it, honestly. Apart from Kyle Larson's cornflake scheme last year, which was absolutely awesome, and this year's isn't great. I'm kind of done with it. How many more can there be? We've been doing it for such a long time, and not everybody does it. It's not like when Supercars did it a few years ago, and Adam will remember when they did it at Sandown for a few years. Everybody had to do one. In NASCAR, it's kind of a free choice, and you have to get your sponsors on board and to do it, and all that kind of thing. Sorry, Joe, I've dropped the clanger.
Spoiler.
I'm just a bit over throwback weekend for Darlington.
Well, considering I know that, I will now get my graphics set up for a special throwback weekend. Yeah, MotoGP tried it at Silverstone last year to celebrate 75 years.
But that was just for one. They won't do that again, though.
No, but the problem was they did it on race day only, which meant lap one, 90% of the bikes were white. And we started the race with a helicopter angle. Me and Megan on lap one had no idea who was where. What was what? We would Stevie Wonder would have done a better job in the commentary on that one.
Oh, talking of livery changes, the slight hot livery change was the VR46 bikes looked different this weekend. It had more black on the front, and I thought it looked better.
Yeah, it was a one-off celebration in livery for some American sponsorship that they had, but I think it looked better. Yeah, love to see SVG bring Holden Racing Team throwback scheme to NASCAR. Oh yeah.
Red and white with the cat down the side, Holden, or even a Toll HSV scheme. That was before the time. You could do a VIP pet food scheme.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully he won't stall in pit lane like he did at Bathurst in 2014.
He's got Red Bull though, hasn't he, for 5 races?
He has got Red Bull. They could do all of those, infamous Red Bull throwback schemes that all look exactly the same.
What? It's Matt this time, Matt?
Could do the Red Bull camo F1 livery that they used for that test once as a throwback.
They're being a bit stupid, Red Bull, just quickly before we wrap up on the show, because matte paint gives you a 0.125% gain per lap. So it's a tenth a lap. So to go back to shiny livery, they're losing that in a car that's already giving up so much speed. So no noggin there, is it?
Looks good though, doesn't it?
Oh God, yeah, that's good. But the car's losing time. It's like, let's give it less speed. So yeah, not great. Surprising, but it is actually true because it's the molecules in the paint that it hits, and if it's a shiny, just a normal coat, the air gets slightly trapped in the molecules. Whereas if it's a matte, it's smooth.
Go straight.
So yeah, best thing I can describe it is go in your bathtub at home and get a cup of water and pour it and watch the bit at the top on where you lay down, how it slides off and how the water droplets still hang around on the side there. That is the shiny plasticky stuff. And then look at the bottom of the bath where you lay with your back and your bottom and see how it will fade away and evaporate, because the two are made of two different types of porcelain. One's a flat and one's a shiny. So that's kind of what we're trying to show. Yeah, hopefully that's a useful analogy.
Science lesson and trains on grid tonight this week. Excellent news.
Next week, a bicycle. I have no idea why, but we may as well. Someone will probably do something.
What about coming to the UK in a few years' time? That was announced the other day. That's bicycle.
Yeah, that's a hot.
Anyway.
Yes. Oh, by the way, you'll be delighted to know, everybody, we won't be seeing You Know Who until Miami. So there you are. Made you all feel better now. But then a lot afterwards.
We'll probably be hearing a lot from the other Who in between now and then, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show.
Yes, we are. Yeah, because he's actually there for the first time in Japan. So yeah, You might notice he's been missing.
It's been quiet, hasn't it, over the last couple of weeks?
So
It's probably not going to be over the next 3.
yeah, it's triple header, isn't it? I forgot about that. So I'll be crying. Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule for this weekend. Thursday night, Grid Live pre-race show, previewing the NASCAR weekend. Saturday, Grid Live After Dark returns 11 p.m. Eastern, previewing Formula One's Japanese Grand Prix. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Darlington Raceway. On Monday, Grid Encore at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the Xfinity race at Darlington and Arca West at Tucson as well. Now, please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach the milestone of 1,500 subscribers. Now we're inching closer to our milestone of 2,000 subscribers. And you can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and follow all of our social media platforms and visit our newly relaunched website, gridnetworktv.com. That's gridnetworktv.com. Check out the video description for the link and to Kobe's walkthrough video showing you each page. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to that is in the video description. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on their personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Jess Ball from JB Motorsports, I'm Joshua Burge from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.